Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ. This is December the 31st, New Year's Eve, and it's 9:26 a.m. Now, I got a recent comment on the video that I did where I told you about Jerry Toney's report on the HEK293 human embryonic cells being used in food. That video has gotten thousands of hits and is disgusting a lot of people. And the most recent comment said something about Snopes is saying it is not actually fetal tissue, ? Something like that. So I thought, okay, I know who Snopes are. They're a government-supported site. It's a family of atheists who took this research of stuff on themselves. They would, if you looked up chemtrails, they said they were just contrails. When I looked up FEMA camps, they said there was no such thing. Well, we know that's not true now, don't we? All right, so I do not consider Snopes a good source to go to because they're government funded. And the government is going to source anybody who is willing to lie for them. All right, so maybe now and then they put out the truth because they don't want to be totally unbelieved, right? And I'm wearing my superhero shirt. It says, Holy Baloney, Batman, Jesus is coming. It's not baloney, Robin. It's true. I wanted my superhero shirt on today just because I needed to feel like a superhero. Okay. And I love red. All right. Let's get back to this. I decided to do a little more research into this. Now, I suppose for every article that is against it, there's one that's for it. I don't know. I would like for you all to try to see if you can find out anything different than this. I'm going to read this article to you so you can see what this person says. All right. Let's get started because it's probably going to be lengthy. All right, this was written in 2012. Also, so was the one that Jerry Toney was referring to, if I'm not mistaken. So, did you hear? This is written by Matthew Herper from Forbes, the Forbes staff. He says, I covered science and medicine and believe this is biology's century. All right, that's his little statement. All right, so did you hear the one about the fetal tissue in your soda? Oklahoma State Senator Ralph Shorty is being widely mocked for a bill to ban the use of human embryonic tissue in the production or research of food. Or, in the language of the bill, quote, no person or entity shall manufacture or knowingly sell food or any other product intended for human consumption which contains aborted human fetuses in the ingredients, or which used aborted human fetuses in the research and or development of any of the ingredients. Find a Word document of the bill here. Now you can click on the word here and go to the Word document. I'm not going to do that. That's something you can do if you want to read the whole bill. This author goes on to say, I think this bill is anti-medicine, anti-biotech, and anti-business. But I also think that Shorty has a point, and that his effort highlights a deep divide in the way people understand and feel about science that no amount of mocking on Twitter or the Andy Kaufman-esque stunt articles on Gawker will change. Do you get that? He's saying that this senator has a point, that no amount of mocking him is going to change. Okay. So let's take a look at what Shorty is actually talking about. No person, and this is not a very well written article, you're fixing to see why. I mean, just grammatical stuff, incomplete sentences, so I got to read it like it is. No person or entity is manufacturing food or other products intended for human consumption that contains aborted human fetuses. But some food companies are using cell lines that were originally derived from human fetuses in order to develop new food products. Moreover, many medicines and vaccines, which I suppose could be seen as, quote, meant for human consumption, unquote. The Children of God for Life, which you can click on and go to, which, according to press reports, inspired Shorty's bill, also opposes standard vaccines for chickenpox, rubella, and hepatitis A, and drugs such as Roche's, it's Roche', Roche's, I'm not sure how to say that, I've seen that a lot. Pulmozyme, the drug is called Pulmozyme for cystic fibrosis, which is a terrible illness that little children get in their lungs. And another drug called Amgen's, that's the company, Enbrel for rheumatoid arthritis. I think that's the one that costs so much. Unless you're poor, then you get it free. See a list of products Children of God for Life say are unethical. Well, let's take a moment to look, shall we? Now, this is children. Oh, my goodness. All right. Wow. The fetal cell line, the third line over. All right, let me give you an example of what you will find, because I'm not going to read all this to you. I'll lose you because you can't see it. The very first disease is called acute respiratory. The product name is adenovirus 4,7 oral. The manufacturer is Barr Labs, Barr. The fetal cell line is WI-38. Whatever they're using came from a fetal cell line. The ethical version, none. Manufacturer, not applicable. Cell line, not applicable. All right, so this is basically a spreadsheet. And it says at the very bottom, any vaccine not listed above does not use aborted fetal cell lines. Copy permissible with credit, Children of Life, Children of God for Life. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, and the cell lines are not the HEK. HEK293 is used for that cystic fibrosis medicine and heart problems. I can't pronounce that. Abciximab, maybe. 3 others. I mean, but all these others are cell lines. MRC for hepatitis A. I mean, all of these are different cell lines. Okay, so let me go back. So you can do that if you want to. Which, according to press reports, inspired Shorty's bill. Also opposes standard vaccines. Okay, I said that. And then I clicked on the list. The fetus-derived cell line we're talking about was also created around the time I was born. This is 35-year-old technology. And it is widely used in cell biology. And there is no way you'll consume them or that the cells would cause any health problems. Because that was something people was concerned about. If you feed a cow, they get mad cow disease. I saw that in a comment. Okay. The cells called HEK293 cells, that stands for human embryonic kidney, were taken from an aborted fetus in the 1970s in the Netherlands. Isn't that about the time they legalized abortion here? I'll continue. Now listen to this. Bits of chopped up DNA from the adenovirus, a virus that causes a pretty severe cold, period. What? All right, moving on. The kidney cells, that would be the human embryonic kidney cells, were forced to take up bits of DNA using a technique invented in 1973. Isn't that when Roe versus Wade went through? Which there really wasn't even a person pregnant that had that happen. That's what I heard. That's another video. I'm not getting into that. The point is, that's when Roe versus Wade went through, if I'm not mistaken. And this is when the kidney cells were forced to take up bits of DNA using a technique invented in 1973 that used a calcium solution. The resulting cells don't act much like human cells at all. They don't act much like human cells at all. But they are very easy to work with and have become workhorses of cellular biology. That's why they're used in the development of drugs and vaccines. Now here's another link you could click on. Here's the original paper on the creation of the HEK cells. No doubt a lot of medical speak that's over my head. But you can click on that if you like. Now, listen to this. No new fetal tissue has been used to keep the cell culture going. And there's a cell culture is highlighted in blue, so you could click on that to find out what that is. The use of this cell line isn't leading to new abortions. Disinformation. I'm just reporting what somebody else is reporting. just as I reported, what Jerry Tony reported. A tiny company called Cenomix, which is what Deborah Traveris reported on, Cenomix, whose stock is trading near its 52-week low. A 52-week low. Yeah, once people found out they were putting these in their food, that's probably why their stock dropped. Anyway, moving on, has been working to use this new technology to create food additives. Cenomix has isolated receptors found on cells that detect taste and added them to the HEK cells. Now, they're not even using the word cloned. What I reported on before, they were saying that they had cloned the cells. Moving on. This allows them to test thousands of potential taste additives to see whether they might taste sweet or savory with a speed that would be impossible with human taste testers. What company wouldn't want that? You can find a scientific paper on the Cenomix sweetener work here. That would be so over my head. You smarty people, you look this stuff up and report to us. I'll make a video about it from the comments. How about that? You can find, but you gotta put it into layman's terms. You can find a scientific paper, okay, I just read that, on the Cenomix sweetener work here. Let me just click on that. I gotta see something. I want to see what it looks like. The molecular mechanism of the sweet taste enhancers. Fenzeng, Boris Bansky, Richard Fine, it gives a bunch of names that wrote this, or they're crediting it to abstract. This is going to tell you what they're going to tell you. Positive allosteric modulators of the human sweet taste receptor have been developed as a new way of reducing dietary sugar intake. Besides their potential health benefit, the sweet taste enhancers are also valuable tool molecules to study the general mechanism of positive allosteric modulations of the T1R taste receptors. Like I said, over my head, but I wanted to see if it mentioned which kind of sweetener. Using chimeric receptors. Oh, I know what that is. Chimeric. Whenever you take human DNA and mix it with something else, you're creating a chimera. My daughter called my dog a chimera because he's got human hair. The Bichon Frise, the Cotton de Toulouse, and they're all cousin type dogs. They have human type hair. They're hypoallergenic and it grows, so they have to constantly be groomed. The Bichon Maltese. You may know of any others, but their hair doesn't stay short like all the other dogs I've ever had. Alright, so that's chimeric. It's the only reason I know that word. Chimeric receptors. Mutagenesis and molecular modeling. We reveal how these sweet enhancers work at the molecular level. Our data argue that the sweet enhancers follow a similar mechanism as the natural umami taste enhancer molecules, whereas the sweeteners bind to the hinge region and induce the closure of the venous flytrap domain of the T1R2. The enhancers bind close to the opening and further stabilize the closed and active conformation. They know people ain't going to understand this. Well, that was bad English. The average person is not going to understand this, and they know it. I want to see what it... This is about the time they started working on aspartame. Mad cow disease apparently affects the brains of the cows, right? Aspartame affects the brains of humans. My mother-in-law would put 6 or 7 of those little blue packets into every glass of tea or cup of coffee she had. And I knowing that it was bad for your brain, I would just, shake my head. And I think I told her once, that's not good for you, Mom, to use all that. She died. She was like 63. She died of brain cancer. Anyway, I'm going to click out of that. See, I knew it was going to be a lot of that kind of talk. Stuff that's over most of our heads. Some of you might understand it. All right, so let me get on to where I was. Where did I click? Cinemix has announced collaborations with Pepsi, Nestle, and Coca-Cola. But did you get the part where it was chimerics, the cells? In other words, half human, half something else. The stock market values the company at $140 million, which is not much by the standards of biotech, and it's not. That's not very much. Why biotech makes us squeamish? There's a huge public health upside to what Cinemix is doing. Upside. They are developing flavors that mimic sugar, salt, and also savory tastes. Excuse me. I'm a guy who doesn't drink soda because of the health risk involved. But replacing ingredients that can lead to obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, and cancer strikes me as a useful endeavor. Really? The creation of a medicine like Pulmozyme for cystic fibrosis, which the Children of God for Life says also used HEK cells, seems even more worthwhile. So do the vaccines from Merck and GlaxoSmithKline that the group also opposes. I don't think many people in science or in the drug business would think of using HEK cells as using aborted fetuses, unquote. No, they don't think of it as that. Excuse me. To a very large extent, the HEK293 line is being caught up in the embryonic stem cell politics of a decade later. But I can see how people who think fetal tissue should never be used in any medicine would see a problem here. Notice how he doesn't say, or food. I can also understand how a lot of biotechnology can seem a little scary and Frankenstein-like because it emphasizes how malleable and manipulable our basic parts are. The fact that we can manipulate biology challenges our view of ourselves as spiritual beings and in control of our own destinies. Do you see the mockery in this? When the New York Times pulled its bestseller list for last year, this is 2012, remember, including ebooks, hardcovers, and paperbacks, the number 3 title was a science book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. I never heard of it. That book followed the history of how cervical cancer cells taken from the tumor of Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman in the 1950s, became widely... Oh, yes, I did hear of this. Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman in the 1950s, became widely used research tools. It also follows her children as they grappled with the reality that cells from their dead mother's cancer had been being used for decades. Some of the book's most touching parts of the story comes as Skloot and others try to explain what it means for cells to become immortal, for them to be used in research. We're all a little bit like Lack's children, dealing with a new kind of technology that is in many fundamental ways made of us. In many fundamental ways, those cells they're using made of us are still human. That's me speaking. I'm moving on. That's going to become an even bigger problem as these technologies become more ubiquitous, as is likely to happen over the coming years, as tools like DNA sequencing and synthetic biology, the power to really design cells in ways that the creators of the HEK line could only dream about, increase in their reach and usefulness. We're embarking on something new and important as a species, mocking the doubters for not being hip doesn't quite seem the right way to move forward. Now listen to this. Thanks to science goddess Joanne Menaster and Venom Doc Brian Grigg Fry for making me think about this over on Facebook. There you have it. Did you get all that? Total. How does that happen? I don't even move. I sit completely still. My mouth moves. Anyway. I mean, if you can read between the lines, that last part, using the word mockery, it just makes me want to shake my head. So they're not taking fully human cells to put in your food. They're only half human. They're chimeric. Now you decide if you want to eat Lay's potato chips and Pepsi Cola for your next snack. I think I'll stay away from it, but it's up to you. I mean, it's in so much. We may not be able to avoid it completely. You pray about it. All right. With that, I say I plead the blood of Jesus over this video, the internet connection, and over each and every one of you as well. I'll say bye for now. I'll talk to you later.